The alarm screamed through the bridge of the UNSC Vigilant Dawn. Captain Ji-hoon grabbed the console as red lights flooded the control room. His crew moved fast, checking screens and pulling up data. "What is it?" Ji-hoon asked. Minji, the communications officer, looked pale. Her hands shook as she worked the controls. "Sir, it's New Busan. The colony is sending a distress signal." Ji-hoon felt his stomach drop. New Busan was home to 3 billion people. His sister lived there with her family. "Put it on screen," he ordered. The main display flickered to life. What Ji-hoon saw made his blood run cold. The sky over New Busan was full of fire. Massive ships hung in orbit, firing beams of pure energy down at the planet. Cities exploded. Mountains melted. Oceans boiled into steam. A voice came through, broken and desperate. "This is New Busan Central Command. We are under attack. Unknown vessels are destroying everything. They hit the evacuation centers first. 3 billion souls and nowhere to run. Please, anyone help us. The transmission ended." The screen went black. Silence filled the bridge. Ji-hoon stared at the empty screen. His hands gripped the armrest so hard his knuckles turned white. "Try to reconnect," he said quietly. Minji tried. She tried for 10 minutes. Nothing came back. "New Busan was gone, sir," said Hyunwoo, the weapons officer. He was a big man with steady hands, but now those hands trembled. "My wife was there. My daughters. They were visiting her parents." Ji-hoon looked at him. He saw the same horror he felt reflected in Hyunwoo's eyes. "Set course for New Busan," Ji-hoon ordered. "Maximum speed." "Captain, we have orders to patrol this sector," Minji said softly. "I don't care about orders. Our people are dying. We're going." The Vigilant Dawn turned and accelerated. It took 6 hours to reach New Busan. 6 hours of silence. 6 hours of dread. When they arrived, the planet was dead. Dr. Sora stood beside Ji-hoon on the bridge, staring at the readings. "No life signs," she whispered. "Nothing. The atmosphere is gone. The oceans are gone. Everything is gone. Where New Busan should have been green and blue, now it was gray and black. A lifeless rock floating in space. Scorch marks covered entire continents. Who could do this?" Sora asked. "Who would do this?" Minji worked frantically at her station. "I'm picking up debris. Lots of it, ship fragments. I'm also getting data fragments from the colony's last transmissions." "Show me," Ji-hoon said. The data appeared on screen. Minji had pieced together bits of information from the final moments. Video footage showed the attacking ships clearly. They were massive, dark vessels with strange symbols on their hulls. "They call themselves the Valtesh Collective," Minji said, reading the translated data. "According to this, they targeted civilian areas first. Schools, hospitals, residential zones. They wanted maximum casualties." "That's not war," Hyunwoo said, his voice hard. "That's murder." More data scrolled across the screen. Lists of targets, coordinates, times. It was all planned, systematic, efficient. "They knew exactly what they were doing," Minji said. This wasn't random. Ji-hoon felt something change inside him. Something cold and hard settled in his chest where warmth used to be. "Try to contact Earth," he ordered. "We need to warn them." Minji tried. Her fingers flew over the controls. Minutes passed. Her expression grew more worried. "Sir, I can't reach Earth. I can't reach any of the colonies. All channels are silent. Keep trying." They traveled toward Earth for 2 days. During that time, they managed to pick up one transmission. It was old, recorded hours before. Admiral Daeho's face appeared on screen. He looked exhausted. Behind him, alarms blared and people ran in panic. "This is Earth Defense Command," Daeho said. His voice was steady despite everything. "We are under attack by hostile forces. They destroyed our orbital platforms in the first wave. Now they're hitting the surface. We have no way to evacuate everyone. The colonies aren't responding. I think we're the last." An explosion rocked the room behind him. Daeho grabbed his console to stay standing. "To any humans who survived this," he continued, "remember us, remember Earth, remember what we were before this day, and remember what they made us become. Because if you survive, you'll need to be something different, something harder, something they'll regret creating." Another explosion. The transmission started to break up. "Don't let us be the end," Daeho said. "Don't let them." Static. Then nothing. Ji-hoon stood frozen. Earth. Home. Gone. When the Vigilant Dawn reached Earth's system, they found the same horror. The beautiful blue planet was burning. Continents were on fire. The atmosphere glowed red. Ships hung in orbit, watching their work. Life signs? Ji-hoon asked, though he knew the answer. Sora checked her instruments. Tears ran down her face. None. 22 billion people. All gone. The bridge was silent except for the sound of someone crying. Ji-hoon looked around at his crew. 37 people. That's all that was left on his ship. Send out a general broadcast, he ordered. Any human ships. Any stations. Anyone who's still alive. We need to gather. Over the next week they found others. A military frigate here. A transport ship there. A research station that had been in deep space. Slowly, 43 ships gathered at a hidden asteroid base called Sanctuary. It was an old mining station, forgotten and abandoned. Ji-hoon stood before the assembly. 80,000 faces looked back at him through screens and viewports. 80,000 souls, all that remained of humanity. They came without warning, Ji-hoon said. They killed without mercy. 22 billion of our people are dead. Our worlds are ashes. Our history is destroyed. Everything we built, everything we were is gone. He paused. The silence was heavy. We were peaceful. We reached out to the stars with open hands and open hearts. We believed in diplomacy, in understanding, in mercy. The Valtesh saw that mercy as weakness. They saw our kindness as an invitation to destroy us. Ji-hoon's voice grew harder. We have a choice now. We can hide in the dark and hope they don't find us. We can give up and let humanity end here, or we can show them what they created when they took everything from us. He looked at each face on the screens. I was a peaceful man. I believed in rules and honor and doing the right thing. But the right thing got our families killed. It got our worlds burned. So I say this to you all. Mercy ends today. The old humanity, the kind humanity, the gentle humanity that died with Earth. What we become now, we become because they left us no choice. Hyunwoo stood up. I vote for survival. Whatever it takes. One by one, others stood. Thousands of voices joined together. Survival. Whatever it takes. Make them pay. Dr. Sora was the last to stand. She looked at Ji-hoon with sad eyes. I hope we remember who we were, she said quietly. Because I fear what we're about to become. Ji-hoon nodded. Document everything. Record it all. If we survive this, future generations need to know why we changed. They need to understand what drove us to do what we're about to do. He turned back to the assembly. The Valtesh think they destroyed humanity. They're wrong. They just made us into something new. Something dangerous. Something they should have left alone. Outside the viewport, the stars shone cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the Valtesh celebrated their victory. They didn't know yet that humanity's survivors were planning, building, preparing. The old humanity had died with Earth. What was born in Sanctuary would be something the galaxy had never seen before. Something without mercy. 3 months passed at Sanctuary. The asteroid base transformed from a refuge into something else. Something harder. The survivors worked day and night, turning their pain into purpose. Young-ho, the chief engineer, barely slept. He moved between workshops and labs, his mind always working. One day he called Ji-hoon to the tech center. I broke into their systems, Young-ho said, pulling up data on a screen. The Valtesh communications we recovered from the wreckage near New Busan. I've been decrypting their files. Ji-hoon leaned forward. What did you find? We weren't their first victims. Young-ho's face was grim. He showed Ji-hoon a list of names. Species humanity had never heard of. 12 other species. All extinct. All killed by the Valtesh in the last 100 years. The list scrolled down. Each entry had dates, population numbers, and a simple notation at the end. Cleansing complete. They're not conquerors, Ji-hoon said slowly. They're exterminators. Yes. They find species they consider inferior, then they wipe them out. They take the empty worlds and claim them. According to these files, they've killed over 3 trillion beings across 13 species. Ji-hoon felt rage building inside him. Cold, focused rage. Why? Young-ho shrugged. Their philosophy is simple. They believe only the strongest deserve to exist. Everyone else is just taking up space. Show this to everyone, Ji-hoon ordered. I want every survivor to see this. I want them to understand what we're facing. That evening, the assembly gathered again. Young-ho's data played on every screen. 80,000 people watched in horror as the truth unfolded. The Valtesh weren't just humanity's enemy. They were the enemy of all life. Minji stood and addressed the crowd. We need allies. Other species who survived. We should reach out to the galaxy and tell them what happened. No, Hyunwoo said, standing up. His face was hard. We're alone. We can't trust anyone else. We need to hit them now, hit them hard, and keep hitting them until they're gone. Arguments erupted. Some agreed with Minji. Others backed Hyunwoo. The assembly split down the middle. Ji-hoon raised his hand. Silence fell. We were peaceful because we had the luxury of peace, he said. We had families and homes and futures. The Valtesh took all of that. They took everything. Now we show them what humans become when you leave us nothing to lose. He looked at Minji. We will reach out to the galaxy, but not for help. We'll reach out to show them who the Valtesh really are. Let the universe watch what happens when you try to exterminate humanity. Admiral Bora, the highest-ranking military officer, stood up. She had lost 3 daughters in Earth's bombardment. Her hair had turned white in the months since. I authorize any tactics necessary, she said. Her voice was ice. No rules. No restrictions. We fight to survive, and if that means becoming monsters, then so be it. At least we'll be monsters who lived, the assembly voted. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would fight back with everything they had. Sanctuary became a war machine. Civilian ships were stripped for parts. Merchant vessels became weapons platforms. Scientists who once studied stars now designed bombs. Teachers became soldiers. Children learned to shoot before they learned to read. Dr. Sora walked through the medical bay, treating injuries from training accidents. She watched young people transform into warriors, and it broke her heart. This isn't who we are, she told Ji-hoon one night. No, he agreed. This is who they made us. Will we ever be able to go back? Ji-hoon was quiet for a long time. I don't know. Maybe that humanity died with Earth. Maybe all we can do now is survive long enough to see them pay for what they did. Sora looked at him sadly. You're not sleeping. You're barely eating. You're becoming something cold. I have to be. If I let myself feel everything, I'll break. And if I break, 80,000 people die with me. She touched his shoulder gently. Just don't forget that we're fighting to save humanity, not destroy what's left of it. 2 weeks later, Hyunwoo led a scouting mission. They found a Valtesh survey ship at the edge of an unexplored system. Instead of attacking directly, they used the ship's own systems against it. Broadcast a false distress signal. Hyunwoo ordered. Make it look like they're under attack and need help. The trap worked perfectly. A Valtesh rescue ship arrived 3 hours later. Both vessels were captured without firing a shot. The crews were brought aboard human ships. Ji-hoon interrogated the Valtesh captain personally. The alien was tall and thin, with silver skin and dark eyes. It looked at Ji-hoon with contempt. You're the ones from Earth, the Valtesh captain said. I thought we killed you all. You missed a few, Ji-hoon replied calmly. Now you're going to tell me where your bases are. The captain laughed. You're already dead. You just don't know it yet. The fleet master is gathering ships right now to hunt down your pathetic hiding place. Then you won't mind telling me where those ships are gathering. The Valtesh captain stayed silent. Ji-hoon nodded to Hyunwoo. What happened next, Sora didn't document. She couldn't bring herself to write it down. But by the end, the Valtesh captain had given them 3 outpost locations and the coordinates of a major supply depot. Are we torturers now? Sora asked Ji-hoon later. We're survivors, he replied. And survivors do what they must. The first strike was against a Valtesh mining colony. It was a small settlement. Only 3,000 Valtesh living and working there. The attack came without warning. Human ships emerged from stealth and opened fire. The mining colony had minimal defenses. It was over in minutes. Ji-hoon stood on the bridge and watched the settlement burn. No survivors, he ordered. No witnesses. Minji looked at him in shock. Sir, there are civilians down there, workers, families. Like the families they killed on Earth? Ji-hoon's voice was flat. Like the 3 billion on New Busan? Fire, the colony was destroyed completely. 3,000 Valtesh died without ever knowing why. Hyunwoo watched the destruction with satisfaction. Now they know how it feels, but others weren't so sure. That night, several people came to Ji-hoon's quarters. They wanted to protest the attack on civilians. We're becoming like them, one woman said. We're killing innocent people. There are no innocent Valtesh, Ji-hoon replied. They all knew what their military was doing. They all benefited from the worlds their people stole. Every single one of them shares the blame. That's not justice. That's revenge. Good, I want revenge. I want them to feel what we felt. I want them to know terror. The protesters left unhappy, but they had nowhere else to go. Jihoon's path was the only path humanity had. Over the next month, 3 more Valtesh outposts were destroyed. Each attack was swift and brutal. Human forces struck from nowhere, killed everything, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The Valtesh began broadcasting emergency messages. Their transmissions were panicked, desperate. They called humans demons. They said humanity fought without honor, without rules, without mercy. They were right. Minji monitored the Valtesh communications. She heard their fear and it gave her no pleasure. But it gave her something else. It gave her a weapon. I can use this, she told Jihoon. Their fear, I can broadcast it to the galaxy. Show everyone that the mighty Valtesh are terrified of us. Do it, Jihoon ordered. Minji's broadcast went out across every channel. She showed the Valtesh messages. She showed their panic. And then she showed the truth. Files from the Valtesh ships proving they had committed genocide against 13 species. The galaxy heard. And the galaxy began to pay attention. One species in particular took notice. The Quintari Federation had lost a colony world to the Valtesh 30 years ago. They had suspected genocide but had no proof. Now they had all the proof they needed. A Quintari representative contacted Jihoon secretly. They offered supplies, technology, and intelligence. Not because they liked humans, but because they wanted to see the Valtesh suffer. Young-ho received quantum communication equipment and advanced reactor designs. With these new tools, human ships became faster and more powerful. We're not alone anymore, Minji said. We're still alone, Jihoon corrected. We just have enemies of our enemies. That's not the same as having friends. The Valtesh fleet master Kethrian decided to end the human threat personally. He gathered 20 warships, the largest task force the Valtesh had assembled in decades. His target, Sanctuary. Minji detected the fleet gathering. She brought the intelligence to Jihoon immediately. They know where we are, she said. 20 ships are coming. Good. Jihoon replied calmly. Let them come. Sir, we can't fight 20 warships, Jihoon smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. We don't have to. We just need to make them regret coming. Over the next week, Sanctuary was evacuated. Only essential personnel remained. The asteroid base was rigged with explosives and automated weapons. Mines were hidden in the debris field. Civilian ships were converted into fire ships, loaded with explosives and programmed to ram enemy vessels. When Kethrian's fleet arrived, they found Sanctuary seemingly abandoned. Only a single recorded message played on repeat. Jihoon's face appeared on screen. You came to finish what you started. But you already taught us the most important lesson. Mercy is for species that can afford it. We can't afford it anymore. The trap sprang. Asteroid bases opened fire. Mines detonated throughout the fleet. The fire ships accelerated, their automated systems guiding them straight into Valtesh warships. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, 20 Valtesh warships were destroyed. The destruction of Fleet Master Kethrian's armada sent shockwaves through the galaxy. For the first time, the Valtesh collective was afraid. And the galaxy noticed. The Galactic Council was a loose alliance of spacefaring species. They met on a neutral station called Unity Point, where representatives from dozens of worlds gathered to discuss trade, territory, and treaties. The Council prided itself on civilized discourse and diplomatic solutions. Now they were discussing humanity, and the debate was heated. Councillor Vesh of the Peltine Concordat stood before the assembly. He was a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. His voice boomed through the chamber. These humans are savages, he declared. They attack without warning. They kill without mercy. They don't follow any rules of war. They're animals, and we should treat them as such. Murmurs of agreement rippled through some of the delegations, but others weren't convinced. Councillor Rethis of the Quintari Federation rose to speak. She was smaller than Vesh, with pale skin and large eyes that seemed to see everything. Let me ask you this, Rethis said calmly. How many of our protocols exist because we've never faced total extinction? We have rules because we can afford rules. The humans lost everything. Their homeworld is ash. Their population went from 22 billion to 80,000. Tell me, Councillor Vesh, what would your people do in that situation? Vesh had no answer. The Valtesh committed genocide, Rethis continued. Not just against humans, but against 12 species before them. We all saw the evidence. We all know what they did, and we did nothing. We chose to believe their lies about colonial disputes because it was easier than facing the truth. Perhaps the humans are showing us what justice looks like when the civilized options fail. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species sided with Vesh, others backed Rethus, but everyone agreed on one thing: humanity had to be dealt with. Meanwhile, Ji-hoon was planning his next move. His fleet had grown to 60 ships gathered from various hiding spots across the galaxy. Each vessel was filled with humans who had one thing in common: they had nothing left to lose. Minji brought him disturbing news. The Galactic Council is discussing us. Some want to help the Valtesh stop us. Let them try, Ji-hoon said. He was studying a star chart marking Valtesh positions. We're not stopping until the Valtesh pay for what they did. Sir, if we make the whole galaxy our enemy. The galaxy already ignored 13 genocides. They're not our friends. They're just spectators who feel guilty for watching. Hyunwoo entered the command room. Sir, we found something. A Valtesh battlecruiser on patrol near the Helix Nebula. It's alone. Ji-hoon smiled coldly. Perfect. Prepare the fleet. The operation was bold and insane. A Valtesh battlecruiser was worth 10 normal ships. It had shields, armor, and enough firepower to level a moon. Attacking it directly would be suicide. So they didn't attack directly. Young-ho had been studying Valtesh technology for months. He found a weakness in their shield systems. If you could get close enough and inject a specific signal, the shields would collapse for exactly 12 seconds. 12 seconds, Young-ho explained. That's all you get. After that, the shields reboot and you're dead. Then we make those 12 seconds count, Hyunwoo said. The human fleet approached the Valtesh battlecruiser pretending to be debris. They drifted in slowly, power signatures minimized, looking like wreckage from an old battle. The Valtesh sensors didn't even register them as threats. When they were close enough, Young-ho sent the signal. The battlecruiser's shields flickered and died. 12 seconds started counting down. 20 human ships opened fire at point-blank range. Missiles, energy weapons, and kinetic rounds poured into the exposed battlecruiser. The Valtesh crew had no time to respond. In 8 seconds, the mighty warship was crippled. In 12 seconds, it was dying. Board it, Ji-hoon ordered. I want that ship captured. Hyunwoo led the boarding teams personally. They cut through the hull and stormed inside. The Valtesh crew tried to fight back, but they were unprepared for how humans fought in close quarters. Humans didn't hesitate. Humans didn't show mercy. Humans fought like demons. The battlecruiser was captured with minimal human casualties. The Valtesh crew was taken prisoner, and Ji-hoon had a new flagship. Standing on the bridge of the captured battlecruiser, Ji-hoon looked at the Valtesh systems. Everything was written in their language, but human translators were working perfectly now. He accessed the ship's database and found something valuable. Diplomatic codes. Minji, he called. I have a gift for you. With the diplomatic codes, Minji could access every Valtesh communication channel. More importantly, she could broadcast on every channel and make it look official. What do you want me to say? She asked. The truth, Ji-hoon replied. All of it. Every file we captured. Every piece of evidence showing what the Valtesh have done. Send it to everyone in the galaxy. Let them see who the real monsters are. Minji worked through the night. She compiled evidence from 13 genocides. Pictures, videos, official Valtesh reports celebrating successful cleansings, orders from Valtesh High Command. Proof that this wasn't just their military acting alone. This was official policy approved at the highest levels. When she broadcasted across the galaxy, she used the Valtesh's own communication networks. Every species with quantum receivers heard it. Every government, every news service, every individual with access to galactic communications saw the truth. The impact was immediate and devastating. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Councillor Vesh tried to maintain his position against humanity, but Councillor Rethus destroyed him with facts. You called the humans savages, Rethus said, but look at these files. The Valtesh didn't just kill humans. They tortured them. They broadcast the torture to intimidate other species. They made it entertainment. They sold recordings of the Earth bombardment as propaganda. And you want us to protect these creatures from human vengeance? Species that had been neutral suddenly found their voices. The Tilmari, a peaceful race of scholars, spoke up. We lost contact with a research colony 40 years ago. The Valtesh said it was a natural disaster. These files show it was them. They killed 6 million of our people and we never knew. Other species came forward with similar stories. Missing colonies. Unexplained disasters. The Valtesh had lied for a century, and now the lies were exposed. Public opinion across the galaxy turned against the Valtesh. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds. Trade agreements were cancelled. The Valtesh found themselves isolated, their reputation destroyed by their own files. But isolation wasn't enough for Ji-hoon. He wanted justice. He wanted them to suffer as humanity suffered. The human fleet began a campaign of calculated strikes. They hit Valtesh military bases, destroying weapons and ships. They targeted Valtesh government facilities, eliminating officials who had ordered the genocides. They were surgical and precise, and it terrified the Valtesh more than random attacks would have. Counselor Nathara, a high-ranking Valtesh official, broadcast a desperate plea to the Galactic Council. She was a female Valtesh with sharp features and desperate eyes. "Please," she begged, "help us. The humans are hunting us like animals. They attack without warning. They show no mercy. They're going to exterminate us." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Counselor Rethus responded coldly. "Perhaps you should have thought of that before you exterminated 13 species. That was our military. Our government. Not all Valtesh supported it. And yet you all benefited from it. You lived on worlds stolen from the dead. You prospered while civilizations burned. Now you ask for the mercy you never showed others?" The Galactic Council voted they would not intervene on behalf of the Valtesh. But they also sent a message to humanity. Taman was a young human who had been a civilian before the war. He had studied alien cultures and dreamed of being a diplomat. Now he stood before the Galactic Council as humanity's representative, the only human willing to face the assembled species. "We acknowledge your message," Taman said carefully. "We understand the Council's concern about our methods, but we will not stop until the Valtesh answer for their crimes. The Council fears you're becoming the very thing you're fighting," Rethus said gently. "Exterminators." Taman looked at her steadily. "We're not trying to exterminate a species. We're trying to bring criminals to justice. The Valtesh military, the Valtesh government, the officials who ordered genocide. If the Valtesh people want to survive, they need to surrender those responsible." "And if they don't?" Vesh asked. "Then we keep fighting until they do." The message was clear. Humanity wasn't stopping. The galaxy could watch or they could help, but they couldn't make humanity show mercy. Back on his flagship, Ji-hoon received intelligence from the Quentari. The Valtesh were planning something big. They were gathering their entire fleet, every ship they had, for one massive strike. "They're coming for us with everything," Minji warned. "Over 100 ships." "Good," Ji-hoon said. "Let them come. It's time to end this." But Hyunwoo had concerns. "Sir, we only have 60 ships. They have 100. Even with our tactics, those odds are bad." Ji-hoon smiled. It was the cold smile that his crew had learned to recognize. "They're thinking like a military force. They'll come together, organized and predictable. We're going to think like survivors. We're going to fight dirty." He called all ship captains together for a briefing. 6 months had passed since the war began. Humanity had pushed the Valtesh to the edge of collapse. What had once been a mighty empire was now a shadow of itself, bleeding ships and territory with every passing week. But victory had a cost. Ji-hoon barely recognized himself anymore. He stood in front of a mirror in his quarters, staring at a stranger. His face was thinner, harder. His eyes were cold. He slept 3 hours a night, and even those hours were filled with nightmares. Sora visited him regularly, trying to get him to rest, to eat, to remember he was still human. But Ji-hoon couldn't stop. Stopping meant thinking. Thinking meant feeling. And if he let himself feel everything, he knew he would break. "You're killing yourself," Sora told him one evening. "Even if we win this war, you won't survive it." "Then I won't survive it," Ji-hoon replied simply. "As long as humanity does." The human fleet had grown through captured Valtesh ships. 60 vessels had become 90, but they weren't just fighting anymore. They were winning. The Galactic Council had reluctantly offered humanity membership, not because they respected humans, but because they feared them. Better to have humanity inside the Council than outside it, unpredictable and dangerous. Taman, as humanity's ambassador, walked a difficult line. He had to present humans as victims seeking justice while hiding the fact that some humans had started to enjoy the killing. Hyunwoo was one of those humans. He led every boarding action personally, and his reputation among the Valtesh was terrifying. They called him the Dead Man because his eyes showed no emotion, no mercy, nothing but cold purpose. We need to talk about Hyunwoo, Sora said to Ji-hoon one day. He's not well. Psychologically, he's broken. He's killing not because he has to, but because he wants to. He's effective, Ji-hoon replied. He's becoming a monster. We're all becoming monsters. That's the price we pay. But even Ji-hoon was starting to see cracks in his plan. Humanity was winning battles but losing something else, something important. That's when things got worse. A faction within the human survivors had started to question the war. Led by a civilian named Dong-hyun, they argued that humanity was losing its soul. We're not soldiers, Dong-hyun said in a public meeting. 70% of us are civilians. We're teachers, doctors, engineers. We didn't sign up to be warriors. We're fighting to survive, but what are we surviving as? If we become like the Valtesh, what's the point? His words resonated with many survivors. People who had been following orders without question began to think about what they were doing. Minji found herself sympathizing with Dong-hyun's position. She had been a diplomat before the war. She believed in words, in understanding, and finding peaceful solutions. But Earth's ashes had taught her that sometimes words weren't enough. Still, she approached Ji-hoon with an idea. Sir, there are moderate Valtesh factions, officials who oppose the genocides. What if we reached out to them? Offered peace in exchange for the war criminals? Ji-hoon was quiet for a long time. You think they'll accept? I think it's worth trying. If we can end this without more bloodshed, do it. But be careful. Minji, Sora, and Dong-hyun led the peace initiative. They made contact with a Valtesh official named Karthus who claimed to represent anti-war Valtesh. He agreed to meet on a neutral station to discuss terms. The meeting was set for 3 weeks later. During that time, Ji-hoon ordered the fleet to hold position. No attacks, no raids, just waiting. It felt wrong to Hyunwoo. We should keep pressing. They're weak. This is when we strike hardest. We're giving peace a chance, Ji-hoon said. Peace? They murdered 22 billion humans. They deserve extinction, not peace. That's not your call to make. But Hyunwoo wasn't alone in his thinking. Many soldiers agreed with him. They had lost families, friends, entire worlds. The idea of letting any Valtesh live felt like betrayal. The day of the meeting arrived. Minji, Sora, and Dong-hyun took a small ship to the neutral station. They brought evidence of Valtesh war crimes and a simple offer. Surrender the officials responsible for genocide, and humanity would stop its campaign. Karthus met them in a conference room. He looked tired and genuine. I speak for millions of Valtesh who never wanted this war. We were lied to by our government. Many of us didn't know what was being done in our name. Ignorance doesn't excuse complicity, Minji said coldly. No, it doesn't. That's why we're willing to surrender the war criminals. We want this to end as much as you do. They talked for hours. Karthus provided names, locations, and evidence against Valtesh officials who had ordered the genocides. It seemed genuine. It seemed real. Sora wanted to believe it. She wanted to think that peace was possible, that humanity could find justice without more killing. They were wrong. The meeting was a trap. Karthus wasn't a peace advocate. He was Valtesh intelligence, and he had used the negotiation to locate humanity's new hidden base. While Minji talked peace, Valtesh ships were moving into position. The attack came without warning. Missiles struck the new base, which humanity had built in a remote system. 12,000 humans died in the first wave. Many of them were children, born after Earth's destruction, the next generation of humanity, killed before they could grow up. Minji, Sora, and Dong-hyun barely escaped the neutral station alive. When they returned to the fleet, they found chaos. Survivors were evacuating. Medical bays were overwhelmed. The air was filled with screaming. Ji-hoon stood in the command center watching casualty reports stream in. His face was stone, but his hands shook. Sora found him there hours later. She had burns on her arms and a cut across her face. She looked at Ji-hoon with empty eyes. I was wrong, she whispered. I thought we could find another way. I thought they would honor peace. I got those children killed. No, Ji-hoon said quietly. I got them killed. I approved the negotiation. I wanted to believe peace was possible. What do we do now? Ji-hoon looked at her. Something had changed in his eyes. The last bit of warmth, the final fragment of the man he used to be, was gone. We show them what happens when you take the last thing we cared about. That night, Admiral Bora called an emergency council. Every ship captain, every military officer, every civilian leader gathered to hear her proposal. The Valtesh will never stop. Bora said. Her voice was cold and final. They'll never negotiate in good faith. They'll never surrender. They'll keep killing us until we're extinct. So I propose we do to them what they tried to do to us. She pulled up a star chart. At the center was a planet labeled Valtesh Prime, the Valtesh homeworld, home to 12 billion Valtesh civilians. We have the weapons, Bora continued. Young-Ho has developed atmospheric igniters that can turn an entire planet's atmosphere into fire. One strike, one planet, 12 billion Valtesh. We end this war in a single day. Silence filled the room. Everyone understood what she was proposing. Not just war. Not just justice. Genocide. Dongyun stood up, his face pale. You're talking about murdering 12 billion people. That makes us exactly like them. They murdered 22 billion of us, someone shouted back. And killing 12 billion of them brings our dead back? Dongyun's voice cracked. This isn't justice. This is mass murder. Arguments erupted. The survivors split into camps. Some wanted total Valtesh extinction. Others argued for restraint. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Ji-hoon stood. Everyone fell silent. We vote, he said. Every survivor gets a say. This decision belongs to all of us, not just the military. The vote was held over the next day. 80,000 survivors cast their votes. The result was close. Terrifyingly close. 51% voted to attack Valtesh Prime. 49% voted against. Ji-hoon looked at the numbers. Humanity had decided. By the slimmest margin, they had chosen extinction over mercy. Prepare the fleet, Bora ordered. We move on Valtesh Prime in 3 days. Those 3 days were the longest of Ji-hoon's life. He went through the motions, giving orders, checking preparations. But inside he was dying. Minji found him the night before the attack. She had something to show him. A message intercepted from Valtesh Prime. A broadcast from Valtesh civilians begging the galaxy for help. In the broadcast, Valtesh families held their children. Valtesh elders spoke about their history. Valtesh artists showed their culture. They were trying to humanize themselves to make the galaxy see them as people, not monsters. Does it change anything? Minji asked. Ji-hoon watched the broadcast. He saw Valtesh children who looked frightened. He saw parents holding their young ones. He saw fear, and for the first time in months he felt something other than cold rage. He felt doubt. I don't know, he admitted. I don't know anymore. The fleet departed for Valtesh Prime. 90 human ships carrying the weight of a terrible decision. As they traveled, Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of his flagship staring at the stars. In his hand was the control that would fire the atmospheric igniters. One press, one decision. 12 billion lives. Hyunwoo stood beside him. They killed our children, sir. Now we kill theirs. It's justice, is it? Ji-hoon asked quietly. Or is it just revenge wearing justice's mask? Does it matter? Ji-hoon didn't answer. He couldn't, because he didn't know. The fleet arrived at Valtesh Prime. The planet hung in space, beautiful and blue, just like Earth had been. 12 billion souls lived down there, unaware that humanity's rage was hanging over them like a sword. The atmospheric igniters were armed. The targeting solutions were locked. All that remained was Ji-hoon's decision. The bridge was silent. 90 human ships hung in orbit around Valtesh Prime. 12 billion Valtesh lived on the planet below, going about their lives unaware that extinction waited above them. Ji-hoon's finger rested on the firing control. One press, that's all it would take. The atmospheric igniters would turn the planet's sky into fire. Everything would burn. Just like Earth burned, sir, Hyunwoo said softly. Give the order. But Ji-hoon didn't move. He stared at the planet below. Beautiful. Blue. Alive. Pull back, he said suddenly. Order all ships to hold position. No one fires. What? Hyunwoo looked shocked. Sir, we came here to end this. I need time. Give me 24 hours. Time for what? To think. To be sure. Admiral Bora's voice came over the communication channel. Captain Ji-hoon, what are you doing? The fleet is waiting for your order. I'm calling a hold, Ji-hoon replied. 24 hours. No attacks, no movement. We just wait. We voted. The decision was made. The decision was made by 51%. That means 49% of humanity doesn't want this. I need to be absolutely sure before I kill 12 billion people. The fleet held position. On Valtesh Prime below, panic spread as the population realized human ships were in orbit. Mass evacuations began, but there was nowhere to evacuate to. 12 billion people couldn't leave a planet in one day. Ji-hoon spent those 24 hours reviewing everything. He watched footage of Earth's destruction again. He read reports about the 13 species the Valtesh had exterminated. He looked at the faces of the 12,000 humans killed in the recent attack. Then he did something else. He accessed the Valtesh databases they had captured. He read Valtesh history. Not their military history, their cultural history, their art, their literature, their philosophy. What he found surprised him. The Valtesh hadn't always been exterminators. 60 years ago, they had been explorers and scientists, much like humans. Then a military faction had seized power through a coup. The civilians had protested at first, but over time, propaganda and fear had silenced them. The genocides weren't supported by all Valtesh, but enough had supported it. Enough had stayed silent. Enough had benefited from stolen worlds. Where did responsibility end? Where did justice begin? Minji visited Ji-hoon in his quarters. She found him surrounded by data screens, reading Valtesh children's stories. "What are you doing?" she asked, trying to understand them, trying to see them as people instead of monsters. "Does it change anything?" Ji-hoon was quiet for a long time. "Yes and no. They're people. They have families, dreams, fears, just like we did. Just like the 12 other species they killed did. So what do we do? I don't know. If we kill them all, we become exactly what they are. But if we let them live, are we honoring our dead? Or betraying them?" Sora joined them. She had been working in the medical bay, treating the wounded from the last attack. She looked exhausted. "I've been thinking about what you said," she told Ji-hoon, "about becoming monsters. I think you were right. We are becoming monsters. But maybe that's not the end of the story. Maybe monsters can choose to become something else, can they?" Ji-hoon asked. "Once you cross certain lines, can you ever go back?" "I don't know. But I know this. If we kill 12 billion people today, there's no going back from that. We'll be mass murderers, and we'll have to live with that forever." Young-ho arrived with new information. He had been analyzing the captured Valtesh databases more thoroughly. "Sir, I found something. The genocide programs weren't universally supported. There were Valtesh resistance groups. They were small and they were crushed, but they existed. Millions of Valtesh opposed what their government was doing. He showed them evidence. Secret Valtesh organizations that had tried to warn other species. Valtesh scientists who had sabotaged weapons programs. Valtesh civilians who had hidden refugees from other species. They failed, Young-ho said. But they tried. Not all Valtesh are guilty." "Enough were," Hyun-woo said, entering the room. He had been listening from the doorway. Enough supported it. Enough cheered when Earth burned. Enough elected the leaders who ordered genocide. They all share the blame, do they? Ji-hoon asked. Do children share the blame for their parents' crimes? Do people born after the genocides began share responsibility for what happened before they were born? Their government killed our children. Now we kill theirs. That's justice. No, Ji-hoon said quietly. That's revenge. And maybe revenge is what we need. Maybe revenge is what our dead deserve. But is it what we need to survive? Is it what we need to be human again? The 24 hours ended. The fleet waited for orders. The galaxy watched through long-range sensors and intercepted communications. Everyone knew humanity stood at a crossroads. Ji-hoon called a final meeting. All ship captains, all civilian leaders, everyone who had a voice in humanity's future. I'm not going to fire, he said simply. I'm not going to kill 12 billion people. The room erupted. Some people cheered. Others shouted in anger. Hyun-woo looked betrayed. We voted, someone yelled. You don't have the right to ignore the vote. You're right, Ji-hoon agreed. I don't, so let's vote again. But this time, let's vote with all the information. He showed them everything. The Valtesh resistance movements. The civilians who opposed genocide. The children who had nothing to do with Earth's destruction. The cultural history showing the Valtesh weren't always monsters. The Valtesh who ordered the genocides deserved to die, Ji-hoon said. The military leaders who carried out the attacks deserved to die. The officials who celebrated our extinction deserved to die. But 12 billion people? Including children? Including those who oppose their government? That's not justice. That's just more genocide. So what do we do? Admiral Bora asked. Let them go unpunished? No, we do something harder. We do something that takes more strength than pressing a button. We pursue justice instead of revenge. Ji-hoon laid out his plan. Surgical strikes on military installations. targeted attacks on government facilities, war crimes tribunals with Galactic Council oversight. Every Valtesh official involved in the genocides would face trial. Every military officer who carried out attacks would answer for their crimes. It'll take years, Minji said. Yes, but we'll still be human at the end of it. If we burn that planet, we'll survive, but we'll be monsters. And our dead deserved better than to be avenged by monsters. The vote was held again, this time with all the information, with time to think, with clear heads instead of rage. The result was different. 70% voted to pursue justice through trials instead of planetary destruction. Ji-hoon opened a communication channel to Valtesh Prime. His message was broadcast, not just to the Valtesh, but to the entire galaxy. People of Valtesh Prime, he began. I am Captain Ji-hoon of the human survivors. My ships hang over your world with enough weapons to kill every one of you. We came here for revenge. We came here to make you feel what we felt when Earth burned. He paused. On the planet below, 12 billion Valtesh held their breath. But revenge doesn't honor our dead. Becoming like you doesn't honor the billions you murdered. So here is what will happen instead. Your military installations will be destroyed. Your government buildings will be targeted. Every official involved in genocide will be arrested and tried for war crimes. If you resist, we will respond with force. But we will not kill your children to avenge ours. Another pause. This is not mercy. Mercy is what we showed you before you attacked us. Mercy is what got our people killed. This is justice. Cold, hard, and unavoidable. You will answer for what you did. Every single person responsible will face trial. But you will face it as prisoners, not as ashes. The attack began. But it wasn't the attack anyone expected. Human ships struck with precision, destroying military bases while avoiding civilian areas. Government complexes were leveled, but hospitals and schools were spared. It took 3 months to complete. 3 months of careful, controlled military action. Valtesh forces tried to fight back, but they were broken and demoralized. Many Valtesh soldiers surrendered without firing a shot. The war crimes trials lasted 5 years. With Galactic Council oversight, every Valtesh official involved in the 13 genocides was put on trial. Evidence was presented. Victims testified. The galaxy watched as the truth came out in full. Some Valtesh officials showed remorse. Others remained defiant to the end. All were judged. Some were executed. Others received life imprisonment. A few, who had tried to stop the genocides, were pardoned. The Valtesh population watched their leaders exposed and condemned. They saw the full extent of what had been done in their name. Some denied it. Many accepted responsibility. A few began the long process of cultural change. During those 5 years, humanity began to rebuild. With Galactic Council support, they established new colonies. The population slowly grew. 80,000 became 100,000, then 150,000, then 200,000, but Earth remained empty. Ji-hoon decreed that Earth would never be recolonized. It would remain a memorial world, a reminder of what was lost. Ships could visit, but no one could live there. 10 years after the war ended, Ji-hoon retired from military service. He was 45 years old, but looked 20 years older. The war had aged him in ways that couldn't be measured. He became a teacher. He taught history to the children born after the war. He made sure they understood what humanity had been.